viewers, welcome back to the PI show. It's that time of show where we've got Viv's mailbag.
Which we all love. We love everyone writing in to thepishow.com.
Email.
Yes, we get lots of emails, so thank you so much, everyone, for writing in.
And people that haven't got emails, just send letters.
Send us a letter. Yeah, just jump onto the website. There are our contact details there. Before we get stuck into the emails, though, Tony, here's a question for you. What does PIAWI stand for?
It's definitely not a cat.
No?
It's pre-injury average weekly
Don't
earnings.
look at my notes.
It's a mouthful, Viv. As defined.
It's defined by the Accident Compensation Act and also the Transport Accident Act. So it defines what people can get for loss of earnings in a no-fault benefit.
Excellent.
In simple language, it's the average of their earnings.
Yes.
Yeah, for the last 12 months.
12 months.
Interesting. Yeah. I found Gary Allen very, very interesting. Forensic accountant. I wonder how does one
He's not
actually...
part of the constabulary.
No,
it's a
he
forensic
certainly
accountant.
defies all of the accounting...
He's clear.
Yes.
He's clear.
Yes, very interesting for an accountant. Can I say that? I just did, I think.
He's just interesting and he's got passion.
Yeah.
He's good.
All right, let's get stuck in. Our first question comes from Tim in Ivanhoe. He says, Dear Vivian, I'm a huge fan of the show. Thanks, Tim. Especially the email question segment. Oh, that's nice. When you talk about injuries such as depression and anxiety disorder, you mentioned that there needs to be at least a certain percentage of impairment. I don't understand how such impairment can be calculated for physical injuries, but I'm even more confused on how it could work for psychological injuries. This is just out of interest because it has always puzzled me. Thanks, Tim. It is pretty confusing, Harry. What are your thoughts on responding to Tim from Ivanhoe?
Look, it is confusing, but the law obliges psychiatrists to put a percentage on someone's psychological impairment. Now, it's modelled on an American guide, and it's been adapted to Victoria. And what they do is put sort of numbers against people's intelligence and how they're functioning. Are they clear? Are they logical? Are they coherent? It puts a number on their emotion and how emotionally stable or how emotionally unstable they are. And it adds all these numbers, and ultimately,
and this and that.
ultimately it gets to a number which is then translated into an percentage impairment, and it's generally from modest, which is 0 to 5%, moderate, which is 5 to probably 15 to 20%, and severe, which is probably 20% more impairment, in my opinion, severe. The cut-off point in Victoria for receiving benefits or common law benefits in some cases is 30%.
That's in a work cover jurisdiction.
That's in a work cover jurisdiction. And I agree with the viewer in a way. There's an artificiality about it, but the law says it's got to be done.
But Harry, can I ask you this? When they assess these injuries, they generally require permanency, but by permanent doesn't mean 40 years' time.
Forever.
It's usually foreseeable future.
In the foreseeable future, so there's some stability, and the treatment and medication won't cure things overnight.
No.
So it's pretty complex. Can Tim actually get a copy of the AMA guidelines if he so wanted?
I think
You'd have to go to probably the Victorian Work Cover Authority's website, and they would have some links to it.
Okay.
But then the actual diagnostic manual they use to get to all these things is pretty big, Harry. It's massive.
Yeah, it's a very expensive publication.
So let's hope you never have need for it, Tim. I hope that's clarified your question a little bit. Our next question comes from Lexi in Paran. She writes, Hi guys, I take many prescription drugs and recently my doctor put me on a new drug without asking if I have any allergies. As it turned out, I was highly allergic to one of the ingredients in the drug, and when I read about the drug online, I realised that such an allergy is quite common. I spent 2 weeks in hospital recovering from all the side effects and currently still have trouble breathing. I want to sue them. Can I sue them both? What can I do? Presumably I'm saying I think she wants to sue both the pharmacist and the doctor.
It's a tricky one.
Scary, isn't it?
Very, very tricky case, this one, because, look, she's on a lot of prescription drugs to start with, so you don't know if they're sort of
Interrelating,
interacting with each other. You really don't know that. And the thing is, you'd think that a doctor, knowing that you're on all these different drugs,
Would have
would
a
be taking some
history.
sort of precautions. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of drugs and.
But the fact that she's researched it and determined that it is quite a common allergic reaction online, does that have any
But
weight
you'd think
at
that the
all?
packet would have some sort of warnings in there as well. You'd think that the pharmacist might have said, don't mix it with this. The doctor might have said, what else are you on? The doctor would know. I mean, she's on many drugs.
But she's saying the doctor
and
doesn't know.
But you need to know what those drugs are too. And if, just to put me at rest, I'd probably get someone that's an expert, a chemist or a
Like a
pharmacist to have a look at it.
Yeah.
To say, do they mix and not mix well? Do you know what I mean?
Pharmaceutical
Yeah.
expert. What would you say, Harry?
Look, I agree with Tony that it's a difficult case, and you've got to prove causation firstly. You've got to prove that the drug did cause some damage, and that there wasn't a fault by either the doctor or the chemist in warning. I agree with Tony. Often there's labels warning things of side effects of drugs. And then if you get over those barriers, then there's no permanent injury. So hopefully she's recovered, but she's lost wages and she can sue for loss of wages and for medical expenses.
It'd be interesting to see.
If she can overcome a lot of the barriers.
Yeah,
So
well, medical negligence always seems to be a difficult one to.
It'd be interesting to see what
successful
she's
in.
like in, say, a month's time or 2 months' time, because she's talking about 2 weeks here.
Yeah.
And plus, there's some cases like the Vioxx one, Harry, where a lot of people have been affected. So you never know. It could be one of those
it could be
drugs.
class. There's class actions in Australia and around the world.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, guys. Our next question comes from Trent in Brighton. He says, recently on MasterChef, one of the contestants forgot to name all the ingredients in a dish that was served to the public, namely prawns. I actually remember this one. I don't know whether you guys saw the show. The show mentioned that if someone had an allergy to prawns, they could have actually sued the restaurant. Is this true? To what extent would my computer's just actually died, so I'll refer to my notes. To what extent would the restaurant be liable? Is there any duty of care or is there any duty owed by the actual diner themselves to ask what is included in the meal, or is it basically the restaurant's responsibility to list everything on the menu? I'd be interested to know your thoughts. This is a really interesting question. What do you think about this, Harry?
I think, firstly, again, you've got to prove that the prawns in and of themselves did cause an allergy. So that's the first thing that you've got to prove. Then you've got to consider, what was on the restaurant menu, and if they didn't disclose it at all, then there might be a case against the restaurant.
Well,
And also the injury, permanency of injury is important too, Harry.
yeah.
Because, I mean, you've got to satisfy the 5% test and
For
things like
pain
that.
and suffering.
Yeah. You'd
We have
get
to wrap
medical
this up. I'm
knowledge.
sorry, guys. Sorry.
You might
Jim.
ask the restaurant for a free meal or
Would you go back though?
There's a lot of cases of people being affected by shellfish, so it's not
Yeah.
unusual.
That's right.
Look,
I think
it's the end of the
if
show
you
again.
have an allergy, though, you've got to be pretty mindful of
what you're eating as well.
That's on the show, guys.
It is. Harry, what have we got on next week?
A show with Bite, which is we're looking at dogs and dog bites for next week, and the law about the duty of care of owners of dogs.
Fantastic.
And thanks very much, Viv. It's dynamic, your mailbag, and we look forward to next week.
It's always great
Harry,
to be here. Thanks,
viewers,
guys. Good night.
Thanks for watching.